At this time, we're going to call the Park and Recreation Advisory Committee Board meeting to order. I'm going to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'll have roll call.
Mr. Sims,
Here.
Ms. Webster,
I'm here.
Ms. Gilroy, Mr. Paschal, absent. Ms. White is excused. Thank you.
Sure. And before we go forward, we're going to have, ask everyone to, if you haven't had a chance to read over the minutes from the the May 22nd meeting, and see if we need to make any corrections. If not, we need a motion for the minutes to be approved as are.
I wasn't here. Is it okay for me to
Yes.
make a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
You wasn't here for that meeting right there? You wasn't here?
Nope. That's what it said.
Doris, so you're going to read over them, Doris?
No, I'm
You
fine.
can see if any, but you can still read through them. Still can read through them.
Yeah.
You still can read through them and see if any corrections need to be made. If no corrections need to be
Yeah,
made, then we
that's
can
right.
get a motion.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes from May 22nd.
Yes.
I second it.
And if there's no correction need to be made, we would recommend that the minutes be accepted as written without corrections.
No correction.
We'll make a motion that the minutes be accepted without corrections. Okay? So the
I'll
minutes
make that motion.
Okay. All right. We get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. With no objections, the minutes are approved as written.
And if I may interrupt, staff also requests that the committee approve the April 24th minutes. During the last meeting, these could not get approved because we didn't have a quorum.
So,
So, I'm sorry.
okay, you go ahead.
Is it a quorum with just three of us?
Yes,
It is?
that is my understanding.
Okay.
So Marguerite, so Mr. Hernandez, your question was, what you said about last meeting?
That if the committee could please approve the April 24th minutes. Usually
These
those
were-
would have been approved at the last meeting in May, but because there wasn't a quorum, they didn't get approved.
Yes.
When I emailed the agenda packet, I went ahead and attached the April minutes for your review so that hopefully today these could get approved as well.
Okay.
All right. I would like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from April
24th.
24th as written.
Okay, so I apologize for that. I have both the 24th meeting minutes for April and the minutes meeting for May the 22nd. So did we get a motion for the April the 24th meeting? Do we have a second?
And I second it,
Okay.
yeah.
And with,
It's mine.
so all in favor of? So we have,
All in favor?
And I.
all right. So without no objections, the meeting minutes for May the 22nd and April the 24th meeting minutes have been approved as written. So we have that. So unfinished business from the May meeting, which was a workshop. We have the item number A is Friendship Park Special Need Playground Location. We have any information going forward about that?
Yes, during the April 24th meeting, the question was brought up as to whether the all-inclusive playground strictly needed to be at Friendship Park. Well, staff had included this item again in May to see if we could get some input from the committee as to if they had any suggestions as to other parks, but because, again, there wasn't a quorum,
Okay.
the committee could not make a decision, but it was agreed that we would make a public announcement to give the community an opportunity to provide input as to which park they would like this all-inclusive playground to be in.
Okay.
Well, in the agenda packet, I included a slide that was published on Channel 25 on June 2nd,
Okay.
and so far, staff has not received any input from the community.
Okay.
So what we are requesting today, what staff is requesting today is some direction from the committee as to where you would like the all-inclusive playground. We do need, however, a definite answer because the location is going to determine the size, and the size is a very important spec that needs to be included in the bid documentation. So before we could put it out for bid, we need to know where it's going to be to determine the size.
Has staff or council have in mind of a specific location as of this moment? Not at all?
Well, staff had begun with Friendship Park because before we had an ADA playground there. And not only that, we have restrooms at Friendship Park, there's shaded area, we have enough parking, there's another playground there at the Boys and Girls Club. So for all these reasons, we had thought that, the staff had thought that Friendship Park would be the best location. But ultimately, we do request input from the committee.
Okay, so it just won't be at the current not the current location, the location where it was. It would be somewhere in the back or here, possibly.
If it would be decided that it's going to be placed at Friendship Park, it would actually go where the bocce ball courts are currently.
Okay. So
Well, I think that's probably the best spot for it.
okay. And Corey?
I'm thinking the Friendship Park area, centrally located, so that's good. But you'd have to, I would want to know exactly where, and you're saying near the bocce ball courts?
Yes.
Is there?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
I don't know. I don't really,
Yeah, so I would just say if staff's okay with, and what we have here now is okay with the bocce ball courts, then we just go with the bocce ball courts, because I mean, we don't have enough individuals here to go, and staff wanted before we leave tonight, so.
I was fine with it until there was other questions, and
What was the question?
there was some public input asking for a possible other site, and that was last week.
Yes, but as of this date right now.
As of now, I don't see much of a reason to change anything, but that's just.
Right,
that's
if the public wanted to say,
They would-
have input, they would have input, and they
Right,
haven't.
and they neglected to do that,
Yes.
so,
And we had asked
right,
during last
right,
meeting if they had
and
any
you
input.
didn't
just
receive
to-
any, right.
Just to get back in touch with staff, so. But as it being, to this point, they haven't had any comeback, we haven't had any feedback, so I
Right.
mean, I don't mind saying
I'm
that.
fine with what was already put in place.
Okay, so if that's the case, then if you don't mind, we can put in the minutes that we're okay with, if council's okay and staff's okay with the bocce ball courts
Do
location.
we need to vote? We don't need to vote?
A vote would be good.
Okay. I want to make a motion that we install the special needs playground at the Friendship Park, at a site that the staff designates.
Yeah. And we get a second?
Okay, and I'll second that.
Okay. And all in favor of?
I'm in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
So there it goes. We can say that with no objections, we have the bocce ball courts at Friendship Park as the location, if that's okay with staff and council going forward. So at that point in time, we're going to have, before we go to the item B, we're going to have input from the public on this matter. And we're going to close this part of our meeting and open it up to the public for the public to speak upon this item A, if there's anyone want to speak.
On pickleball?
Not on pickleball,
No.
on this
On the
item we just
special-
finished talking
okay.
about, special.
Sorry.
On the special.
Item A, and it's Friendship Park Special Need Playground Location. So if there's no input from the public, so we're going to reconvene our meeting, go to item B, and it's the pickleball status. Would there be any?
Yes, our city manager actually requested new numbers from Joe Schulke,
Okay.
and I'm actually going to turn it over to him for him to give the committee details.
Okay.
Good evening. Chairman Sims and members of the committee, I'd like to make a little presentation this evening about the status of pickleball. I'm sorry, I'm using this as an eye test for everybody. Can everybody see that on your screens? Is that zoomed in enough? There we go. Maybe that's better. Since our last meeting and the kind of indecision that's been floating around about the pickleball project, I wanted to give you an update, and mostly centers around our budget because there have been some changes. As you know, we're, pardon me, in the budget season. We're building our budget for next fiscal year. There have been some things that have come up, and I wanted to keep you all updated on where we are. When the last presentation was made, there was a number floated around an estimate for the pickleball courts of $435,000. Frankly, I thought this was excessive, and that revolves around some of the things that we had added to the project. We had added a lot of additional parking, access to the area. We were keeping the baseball field, a lot of earthwork to prepare for 4 more pickleball courts. So there was a lot of add-ons that we included in that project. And behind the scenes, talking to certain members of council, they kind of also, some of them felt the same way. And I felt like I had to do something to rein in the cost a little bit. So as Mr. Hernandez talked about, I got hold of the consulting engineer and asked him to do a couple things. And one of the things was eliminate all frills, eliminate the baseball field from consideration. And in other words, we could move those pickleball courts out into the baseball field more and not make those improvements to the baseball field. We would not have to do as much earthwork, no additions to parking. In other words, the parking that would be there and the access would be there would be via dirt road, and we'll improve the parking. We could do that internally with millings and things like that. But we would keep the 4 pickleball courts plus the lighting and the perhaps a little pavilion and a water fountain. So I wanted to get it back to a bare bones thing to try to get control of the numbers. Mr. Schulke came up with a readout of what that would be, and you should have a copy of this in your packet, I believe. And what I'd like to zero in on is the cost of 4 courts initially, and the bottom line, going through all the mess of arithmetic, is $212,000. I think it's $806. So I am recommending to you that when we proceed, and I anticipate at some point we're going to be proceeding this project, that's what we do initially, is build those 4 pickleball courts on that site, eliminate the baseball field from consideration of improvements, and then in the following fiscal year, we would add 4 additional courts that would bring it up to a total of 8, and that would be another $172,000. So that being said, now let's look at our budget. And I have our upcoming budget right here for next fiscal year. At the end of this fiscal year, we anticipate $904,000 in change in our rec impact fee fund. We're anticipating some monies being deposited in that fund that would bring that up to $936,890. Now let's talk about some of the things, some of the expenses that we would have in this fund. The community center paving, that project is ongoing. Actually, that project is about 2 years in the making. That's been approved by this committee, I believe, and also council in the previous budget. And the permits are in hand. The design is complete, and that project is going out to bid, if not late this week, early next week. So that's that's pretty much there. Friendship Park improvements, which is a pickleball project, $234,739. That reflects the number of $212,000 in change for the 4 courts that I just talked about, plus engineering costs. So that would be $234,000. Barber Street Sports Complex football field restrooms. Remember, we've been talking about this for a long time. Council kind of beat me over the head and said, get this project going. And lo and behold, and very much coincidentally, it was during the time that we just got a bid for the working waterfront restroom project. I don't know if you all are aware, but that restroom, working waterfront restroom project came in severely over budget, and we had to whittle that down, but it's still way above budget. I had to go back to council and ask for more money into that project. So we put the design for the Barber Street Sports Complex football field restrooms on hold until we can get a real firm view of what our budget's going to be. So this $128,100 is encumbered in that project, but I anticipate that there's going to have to be a lot more money infused in that project to make it happen. So we have just done some survey work. It was $130,000. We've just done some survey work and such, but I really believe that number is going to increase. So I'm kind of worried about that. The next item is the Parks and Recreation element to our comprehensive plan. As you all know, we contracted with Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council on that project. That's ongoing. They're working on that. The next item is the certified playground inspections. Ms. Hernandez has spearheaded that project. That's currently ongoing, $12,800. So you can see what those numbers add up to, $445,000. So that unallocated balance would be almost $500,000. So let's talk about the one biggie that has just hit us this spring, and that is the Barber Street Sports Complex, the baseball fields, lighting. So we've, in building the budget, I've learned that we have some huge problems over there with that lighting. That lighting is going on, I think, 12, 14 years, something like that, or older. We have some issues there that we have to correct. I was faced with making a decision about making this a 2-year project or a 1-year project. The advantage to make it a 2-year project, obviously we could spread out the payments, and so it wouldn't be such a hit on rec impact fees. The problem with that, we spread it out, it's going to be a higher price. So I made the decision to bring that back into this next year. At least that's what's reflected in our upcoming budget. Now this budget that we've been working on, this was just made public last Monday night with the Budget Committee. It's a draft budget. There's going to be a couple of iterations that we're going to go through, but as of right now, that $375,000 is reflected in this budget. And you all just talked about the ADA playground that, as I understand, we're going to install over at the bocce ball courts. That is $80,000, and that is in this next year's budget. So you can see with $455,000, that would leave us a balance in your rec impact fund of $36,000. I think that would make you, and I would think it would make the city council a little nervous. So especially if you consider some cost overruns in that Barber Street Sports Complex restroom project and things like that. So let me tell you what some possible solutions would be. Since the pickleball project, and I'd like to preserve the pickleball project, I think it's something that we should pursue. I mean, my gosh, it's now a year and a half, we're still talking about it, but I think we should still pursue it. That does qualify for discretionary sales tax funding. It's new construction, be an asset for the city, so it qualifies for that. We would have to move some things around with some in our discretionary sales tax to be able to do that. I need some time to work that through in the budget, but Ken Kilgore and myself, we have a plan to try to do that. So that is where I would like to try to look for funding for the project. That would mean that $234,000 would be funded by discretionary sales tax and not by your rec impact fund. I think that would be to all of our advantage. That would give you a little bit of a cushion because we have these other projects. So let me try to work through that with Ken, and of course that will require council's approval because it would mean moving funds from other areas or other projects around, but we'll just let Ken and myself worry about that kind of arithmetic gymnastics, and we'll try to take care of that. That would give you a cushion of about, almost $260,000, $270,000 to provide for, let's face it, some cost overruns that might occur in some of these other projects that always make me nervous when we get into these things. So I would like to see that us proceed with, and I would recommend that to the committee that we proceed with the engineering and architecture on this revised pickleball project where regrettably we're taking the baseball field out of the picture, and that's where we will install the 4 pickleball courts contingent upon council approving funding.
From the committee tonight, you just need a vote to say, okay, with the plans that you guys have in plan?
I would think that I'd like to get, if there's any committee input or public input,
Okay.
I'll be open to answer any questions, and then I think a vote would be appropriate, and I'll proceed as you see fit.
Joanne, would you have any questions to Mr. Griffin?
No, I wouldn't be me if I didn't say I don't like the idea of getting rid of the baseball field, but I do understand, and I think that all the pickleball that I'm seeing and hearing about, I think it's real important that we do it. So, and I think it's great that you can try and get money elsewhere to leave that buffer, so I'm good with it.
Corinne?
And thank you about the lights at the baseball field, because
And
they
Corinne, you have any
really,
questions to Mr. Griffith?
No, I think Joe's recommendation is wonderful, and I'm in agreement with it, and I think it's the financial way to go here at this point.
And I'm in agreement with it also, so I think, like I said, again, we didn't anticipate the lights at Barber Street or the sports complex to be, the baseball field to be where they're at, and that, we know that area of the city has a lot of impact, a lot of uses also, so to shift that around, I think it's a pretty good idea also. So if we have to make a vote, we need a motion, or just a vote, or for this?
do you need a motion? I make a motion that we go with Mr. Griffin's plan for the, move forward with the pickleball with the, revised the way that he stated.
Okay, we get a second from Corinne?
I'd like to second that.
Okay. All in favor of?
All in favor?
Aye. So you have our 3 yeses.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good night.
Thank you for your work.
At this point in time, we're going to open up to the public if they have any questions about the budget, proposed budget going forward. If there's no questions, we're going to move on to the next part of our agenda. And it's going to be the playground inspection update, item C.
Yes, the playground inspections were performed on June 14th and June 15th. We are awaiting the formal inspection reports from the inspector. I spoke with him on the 22nd of June, and he stated he was working on them. He said he would be submitting them this week. So more than likely, at the next Parks and Rec meeting, staff will be presenting these findings to the committee.
Okay. Thank you. At this point in time, open this section up, item C section up for the public, if the public need to have comments on that playground, item C inspection update. Okay, if there's no communication from the public, we're gonna move on to item D, dog park status.
Yeah, since our last meeting, the following modifications have been done or will be getting done.
Okay.
So this is just an update for the committee and for the public. Staff has actually placed a PO for 4 benches on June 15th. We've actually received these 4 benches on June 21st. Now it's just a matter of getting them set up and installed at the dog park. We actually put up no smoking signs, which include, and this is actually pertinent to the last city council meeting. There was talk about no smoking at the dog park and how to be able to manage that a little bit better. So what staff did is we put up no smoking signs, which actually include the up to $500 fine, and this was done on June 19th. We've added the no personal property verbiage to the general large sign for further clarification. Staff has actually also initiated the PO process for an ADA accessible drinking fountain, which will include a dog bowl.
Okay.
When I say initiated the process is that it's, undergoing the PO process, but this week we should be placing that PO. In other words, placing the order for this drinking fountain. We will also be placing a picnic table outside of the dog area and are possibly looking into procuring a second ADA or wheelchair accessible picnic table along with this one. So it might possibly be 2, but for sure it's going to be 1. Public Works will be installing a proposed shade structure. Now, I don't have the time frame as far as this. Right now, they're working with several projects, but it is in the works. They do have it, and yes, they will be installing a shaded structure. They will also be placing sod over the dirt, but it's in this case, it's weather permitting. They inform me that we can't cut the sod in the sod fields when it rains. So, but that's another, something else that we're working on. I've checked, a question was asked at the last meeting I don't know if it was the last meeting or the April meeting, but it was asked as to whether code enforcement could monitor the use of the parking lot. And the answer is no, they cannot. As for the ADA concerns of the dog park, our city engineer performed this ADA inspection on June 22nd, and he concluded that the dog park is in compliance with ADA standards. So that is my status as far as the dog park.
Was there any comment from the committee about the bulk?
Oh, that's a lot getting done for the park. Good
Yes,
job.
most definitely. Corey, is there any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I do have some input about the park and that if you're done or you have more presentation.
So you want
Yep, well, I visited the park on 2 or 3 occasions and so on, and it's wonderful. I mean, I've been there before myself with my little doggy, but I went there and I took some pictures and so on, and I really looked at it from a different perspective, from the city's perspective. And I talked to a couple of people just as a regular resident. I didn't talk to them about anything else, but everybody seems to be very happy and they love it. I could, go through that, but there's people that actually travel from, let's say one man travels from Pompeii because there isn't anything there. So the people that are there are a lot of the ones, especially in the small park, are regulars, and they absolutely love it. So, and my dog has gotten used to going there at least once a week. So, and I thought, the trees and how many trees there were and so on, there were an equal amount on each side. There was plenty of shade. But I felt it was adequate shade, but I thought if they could add more, and you just talked about tables and that, either a canopy or some sort of wooden structure, like you say, would be an additional. And I like the idea of the doggy bowl and so on. But other than that, I enjoyed it, and I still think it's a treasure. Thanks.
Marguerite, most definitely thank you for the update. And it's like a lot of things has taken place since our meetings that we had back in April and May. So most definitely thank you for that. And at this time, we're going to close this part of the meeting and open up to the public for input if needed on this matter right here. When you come to the podium, just speak loudly into the mic. Give your name and address, either or you can.
John 10 Rovey Street, 10 South Wimbrow. First thing is Easy Street. All the lights aren't working yet over there at the on the cart path, yeah, or walk path, yeah. Okay, dog park, the car stops. I didn't get a chance to talk last meeting because you went right past public input. We didn't have any last month.
And I apologize for that because that was an oversight on my behalf.
All right. Okay, the car stops at the dog park. They need repinned. The rebar sticking out on some of them. They're going to have to redo them. You know what I'm talking about?
Do you know which
The
ones?
car stops that are the concrete, the rebar drives it in the ground, yeah.
Is it all of them or just one?
No, there's ones on it would be the, probably the south side.
South side?
Yeah,
Okay.
up the parking lot. Plus the parking lot needs redone. They need to repave that thing. It is bad, real bad. Also, I think that they brought it up last meeting about 2 more handicap spots out there, and they do need them, yes, for the dog park. And there's enough room, I believe, from the 2 existing handicap spots to the fence or right to it, that they could probably get 2 more in there. Also, I watched the vehicle drive down a walk path last night about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and nobody in the dog park called anybody about it, especially the police. I mean, he just drove down there like he owned it, yeah. It was in a vehicle, a blue pickup truck. And he went
Was he
right by a
going?
sign that says authorized vehicles only. There's a walk path around the lake, okay? You can walk around it. He drove his vehicle right down the walk path.
Where was he going, John?
He lives on a, I
He
think,
lives in the back?
right, somewhere in the back, yeah. And that's the easiest way to get back here, yeah. They're gonna have to do something, either put up a fence or something there, yeah, so nobody can drive back here, because there's a sign that says authorized vehicles only, yeah, so. And one other thing. Within the last week, I've had to chase 6 dogs out of my yard. That nobody's putting them on a leash, coming out, they run loose, and they head right for my yard, yeah, so.
I have a question. Do you live there? Is that-
The dog park's in my backyard,
Oh,
yes, yes. Yes.
are you the guy with the chihuahuas? Was a little white chihuahua.
I have a little, we have a small,
there was like
looks
2 or
like a little
3.
red fox that we have, you know,
Yeah,
me and my wife.
okay.
But we don't put it in the dog park. She walks around the dog park, she walks around the lake, she walks all the streets around there. But like I said, I had 6 of them in my yard within the last week.
Were those
They're gonna
people
have
that
to
were leaving
abide
the
by the
park?
rules.
Those
Well,
were
the
people
one-
that were leaving the park, or?
The one comment was to me that they got off the leash. I said, how could it get off the leash when there's no collar on the dog? So,
Yeah.
yeah, so
I see.
that's my big,
Are they on your property for a long?
in my yard.
For a long period of
I
time?
don't rent, I own that property, yeah. I bought that in '96.
I'm saying, are they on there for a long period of time or just briefly?
Oh, yeah, 21 years, yeah.
No, I'm just saying, are the dogs on your property for a long period of time or briefly?
And I don't miss much over there.
Right, but are they people that are leaving the park with their dogs?
Leaving the park, yes, yes. And
They don't have
they're
the dog
coming out
on
of the
leash?
fence, and they're not on leashes.
I'm just saying, but when they do come, they're on your property for about 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes?
About 5 minutes until, you know, I come out, and then the owners come over and say, you know, they got leash.
Okay.
They broke off the leash, so.
Okay,
There's no hard feeling between me and them, but the thing is, they're still in my yard.
okay.
They're trespassing on my property, yeah,
But you guys have had
right.
back-to-back communication, so hopefully it won't continue to go on.
Hopefully, yes.
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 so-
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Evening. My name's Hamilton Edwards, 182 Easy Street.
Okay.
Thanks for that report. That was really good to hear. I would like to ask maybe for maybe getting some input from us about placement of the benches. I'm just assuming it'll be 2 on each side or whatever. You know, it's really important for them to be in the shade, and the shade changes constantly in the seasons. But as it is now, we've been able to drag one of the benches that's over there into shade, but the other one, you know, it's too heavy. And so, you know, all the visitors that come into the park, apparently from seeing the newspaper articles, they know more about it now. They don't know to bring their own chairs. So they either stand around in the shade talking to us, or they sit over in, you know, in the sun in this weather. So, you know, really excited about hearing about some sort of shade structure, but just asking to have some input on placement. I'm hoping maybe, you know, some Eagle Scouts might get interested in it, maybe even build some more benches, you know, at no or little cost, you know, to the city. I don't know about, you know, 2 benches being enough, or however you're going to split them up on the park. And I would like a little input on the water fountain. If you're talking about that being on the small dog side, since there isn't one over there, I've looked a little bit online, and there are some that are made for small dogs. Like the one that's on the big dog side, it's a little higher up. The bowl is really small, but they make them where it's like a trough sort of thing down there for the dogs, and it's much lower to the ground. So I would like to suggest that. I don't know if I should be talking in that direction or towards you.
You can speak
Okay,
forward,
sorry.
speak forward.
Since you were talking about all the minutes. But definitely to look into that for the fountain, not just to get the standard sort of one, if it's going to be on the small dog side, which I assume since we don't have one.
Okay.
But definitely would like to have input on placement of the benches, shade, and, you know, for y'all to really take into account about the water fountain. And if you have any pull with Eagle Scouts who could, you know, build a little, you know, some more benches or whatever, that would be great too, a great cost saving. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Marguerite, like, is there, and I know you said everything has been submitted now, but is there, okay, so it'll be a while before the recommendations come back for those items, like the water fountain and the table? So if the citizens wanted to give input on it before the placement, can we have them to contact staff or put something on the TV screen?
Well, actually, I think what has been working, because much of this, you know, that we're working on is thanks to the suggestions
Yes.
that the community has been inserting in the suggestion box.
Okay.
So I would ask again that, in reference to the benches, as he mentioned, if he can please, you know, put in the suggestion box, put these 2 in the large dog in this area, put these other 2 in the small dog in this other area. Input like that has been very helpful to staff.
Okay.
And as far as the drinking fountain, right now is a good time, because as I was telling you, it's in the process of being placed, the purchase order.
Okay.
So I will double check and make sure that the dog bowl is lower, and hopefully, you know, suffices the needs of the small dog area.
Okay. And that's, again, great comments, because a suggestion box has been placed out there. So going forward, all the ideas that were just brought forward, like if the citizens that's watching from the television standpoint and the ones that's in our audience here physically, if you can utilize that suggestion box, then that would help better serve staff also about the location of the water fountain and like the wooden structures also. So if that could answer the question, that's what the suggestion box. So we thank you for that. So is anyone else that want to speak on this matter?
Hi, my name is Sunanda Ashton. I live in Cashy Court, Sebastian. It's part of what Hamilton said. I just wanted to check. Well, first of all, I wanted to say that we're really appreciative of these things. It's a really big deal for us, having 2 new benches and the water and the shade. I just wanted to also say that it would be really helpful for us if we could have some say in where the benches go, because there are people that go in the mornings and they have their shade, and then we go in the evenings and have our shade, and we kind of know where it moves during the day. So if that is a possibility, that
Okay, and again, the suggestion box that's out there, if you can place those comments that you have about the location of the benches or the wooden structures that they're going to be bringing out there, because now's the time, if you have any idea or input about the location of the ideas you just talked about,
Yeah, it
you
would
can,
be a
there's
bit
suggestion
difficult.
box that you can put into the suggestion box, and the staff is going to look at those suggestions, and then they're going to be able to help to make their decision about the placement.
Right, it would be a bit difficult to sort of write down where I suggest they go. It's more like
Would you like to
kind of
meet with
pointing it
staff or
out.
come to City Hall to be able, come here to be able to meet with someone to explain to them?
Yeah, or maybe just be there on the day that
Yes.
they're going to deliver them.
Because I'm pretty sure if you want to
Don't know
talk
if
to
that's-
Marguerite at the end of the meeting, she can probably get your name in. But you guys probably can talk about a time that you can come here. If it's too long to write, then I think that may help out also.
Well, it's not too long. It's difficult to put in
Yes.
writing, you know.
So could
They
I
need to go
suggest
under that tree on this side of, you know.
And then-
maybe a white paint, a white spray paint, if they find out around about when the bench is going to be installed, you just mark an X or write bench in the ground, and when they come to install them, they'll see that. It's an idea.
yeah, but
I have a question for Ms. Hernandez regarding where the shade is and benches. Have you received in the boxes already what people's suggestions are? Because I think what's going to dictate the locations is the sun and the seasons and the amount of trees that are already there. So it seems to me that it just would take someone to view and say and look at the whole mapping and so on and see where they can put them.
Yes, it is my understanding from the park supervisor and the public works director, because it's actually the park supervisor out on the field who is picking these up from the suggestion box, and then he's getting together with the public works director. From there, I get together with the public works director, but it is my understanding that we've had requests for benches, and therefore we purchased benches. We've had requests for the shaded structure. We've had requests, well, not necessarily for the shaded structure, but for more shade. So that's how we came to the conclusion, okay, Public Works will be constructing a shaded structure. We've had requests for the drinking fountain, not necessarily as to the location specifically,
Yeah.
the southeast corner of the dog park or not necessarily location in that sense. But I'm not sure about the idea of, marking an X, only because if it's several people marking the X and we only have 4 benches, I'm not sure whether that will be a good idea. Another idea, certainly I'm here if you'd like to come in with me and show me, maybe we can draw, a quick schematic so that I can turn over to the Public Works Department. Or even then, another idea is, I don't know if you're familiar or aware, but the Public Works is going out there on Wednesdays from 7:30 to 9:30.
This Wednesday.
So another idea would be meeting up with somebody who's normally the park supervisor, meeting with him there and showing him, oh, you know what? One of the benches would be good here, and so on and so forth. So those are 3 options, well, actually 2 options that you have.
That's
Are these
great.
going to be movable benches, or are they going to be
stationary.
stationary?
Well, it was my understanding that they would be placed on a concrete slab due to hurricanes,
Yeah,
due
yeah.
to other, but I'm not 100% certain of this.
It might actually be a good idea if they were movable. There's 2 in there that we managed between a few of us to move, and they're very heavy. They're not going to go anywhere in a hurricane, and that way, when the seasons change, we can move them slightly so that they're back in the shade, because it's totally different in the winter in there than it is during the summer.
I'll definitely mention that to the Public Works Director.
Thank you. And I did notice the signs about smoking as well. I saw them there. Though people are still smoking, they go, well, the person I saw smoking just went right to the back of the big dog park to smoke. And I knew because I could smell it, and then I walked my dog round the perimeter anyway and saw him smoking. So although the signs are there, they're not actually being taken notice of. And it's really not that easy to say to someone, you know, it's not non-smoking in here, because they usually say, well, so what? And, you know, then where do you go, well, I'm going to tell on you? You know, it turns into...
Well, there's a lot of signs there and so on, but there's no one enforcing code, so it's kind of just out of respecting others and so on. And that's the problem. I don't know that we're going to start policing and all of that. I don't know that that's even a great idea, but
Yeah, and the
it's
people who
common
smoke,
consideration,
they know,
you know?
they knew beforehand
Yeah.
that they weren't supposed to, and they're not respecting, and they're not going to
Right.
respect the sign either.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if a bench outside will
I
help
would be
that.
careful with approaching people, though.
Yeah, no, I don't
wouldn't do
want to
that
get into
kind of stuff
something like that.
myself, but it's not safe.
Oh, and I just had one other question that might be for you. You said there was one shaded structure. Did you mean one in each park, or just one?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it will, if it's only one, if it might be positioned in the way that it shades both areas. I believe it's going to be a 4-post structure, so it might be positioned in such a way that maybe half of the structure shades the large dog area. I'm just guessing, if it is only one shaded structure. But that I know of right now, or that the staff can report on right now, is that they are going to be installing one shaded structure.
So it might be an idea to be there Wednesday morning
Yes.
again to
Most
talk
definitely, yes.
to. Yeah.
So-
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very
Marguerite, would that be every Wednesday or just this coming Wednesday?
Well, they've been doing maintenance. They've
Okay.
actually been closing the dog park every Wednesday from, I believe it's 7:30 to 9:30 for maintenance. But since she's stating that it's difficult to pinpoint where they would like the benches, I thought maybe it's a good idea to, you know, meet with the park supervisor during that time to hopefully tell them where it would be ideal.
And again, that's
Just
a,
something really small, a lid for the trash can would be great, because it stinks. You know, it's not a big
A
deal.
lid? Okay, I didn't hear her.
and again, thank you. And again, once again, just to go a little bit further, if there is anyone in TV land that would like to, or having any suggestions, they can place them in the suggestion box, or again, on an ongoing Wednesday, the park supervisor is out at the park, making maintenance, or performing maintenance. So if you have any questions about whatever needs to be done out there, you can, as far as placement of the tables or the possible location for the cover areas, he would be out there from 7:30 to 9 a.m. on Wednesdays, and then those questions could be addressed at that point in time, or again, you can place those suggestions in the suggestion box.
And don't smoke in the no smoking areas.
Yes. And there are signs out there for that also. If there's no further questions, that portion of the meeting is closed to the public, and now we're going to resume our meeting. And so our next order of business is item 7, new business. And there's no new business on the agenda going forward, so if anyone else from here has any new business for the next month, you can talk to the secretary or Marguerite, and then we'll get the new business on there. Okay, so our next item is number 8, public input. So this part of our meeting is closed, and we're now opening the meeting up for public input on anything that needs to be spoken about. So come forward one by one, and just like it's going to be just speak toward us, and then like just state your name and address.
Good evening, Jim Sunnycab, Sebastian. Back to the dog park, one little area there, the handicap tables that are going outside. Let's make sure they're not by the entrance where people can smoke, we smell the smoke going into the park. And also have something where people can put their cigarette butts, and maybe a tree for shade for the future at the table there, because it's going to be out in the sun, and if we could plant a tree there, it'd be nice. Also, around the trail is weeds that need to be sprayed. When you walk the trail, it kicks up bugs and things. So the trails on the backside is covered with weeds, so they need to take care of those weeds. Also, there's no doggy bag dispenser anywhere around the trail, so I've seen people walk their dogs in no baggies so they don't pick up. Also, a couple of people have mentioned the trail itself. Would like to know how far they're walking. And if we could get a sign put up that kind of a general idea how long it is they're walking around the trail. And I would suggest putting a sign up with rivets, because if they use bolts, what Easy Street, they used, they had the alligator signs up, and some kids took some tools and undid the bolts and took the signs away. If you use rivets, you really can't take the sign off. So I would suggest using rivets. Also on the boardwalk back here, it's not the cities, it's actually the counties, but one time we had the county clean the boardwalk. It needs cleaning again, and there's a couple boards need to be replaced. But this is in our city. It belongs to the county, but still it's in our city, and the county cleaned it, but it's time to mention again that it needs to be cleaned, the boardwalk. The yacht club. There's people that like to go down there and watch the boats coming in and things, and they take dogs with them. And maybe put a doggy dispenser at the yacht club in the back there, or somewhere around there where people could, because they're...
Do people not carry bags with them, with their dogs?
No.
Oh, my
They-
God.
It's kind of like if...
It just seems to me, I have a thing on my leash for my dog that
Yeah.
we shouldn't have to have
I'll say, a couple
signs
people...
with those things everywhere.
A couple people will carry bags, but then there's people that won't. You know, through the years, the biggest problem is in the wintertime when the visitors are here, they really don't.
It just seems excessive to have them everywhere, especially if you want to sit down and watch the boats.
Yeah.
You don't want to have the
Well, it's like
pole with the
it's like
dog
a
bags on
comedy show
it.
when people are bringing. It gets hilarious down there sometimes, and people they come down on a regular basis to just to watch the entertainment. People backs their boats up and their truck ends up in the wall. I mean, it gets hilarious sometimes. But it's just a possibility of a doggy bag dispenser. And Riverview Park, what's the status on the Pete Harris plaque?
The Pete Harris plaque was ordered and delivered. I wasn't aware that it hasn't been installed, but I can definitely look into that.
Okay. I just want to mention, like Joanne, you like the light at Easy Street. You're concerned about different colors. Okay, that light comes with different lenses, like green. There's even one for pink if you want to do the cancer. So that has several, you name it, and there's lenses that come with it, green, blue, yeah, all colors. And I contacted the company to make sure that a pink one was available, and that there is pink. So if the committee, certain times you maybe want to change the color for certain situations. And the light has really, people enjoy it. I walked my dog last night around the park, and there was 3 people just sitting at the table, just the sound of the water and the light. It was well worth putting a light in. It's made a difference. And I'm going to shut up for the night, and that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. Is there anyone else from the public? There's no one else. We're going to resume our meeting. And, is any To staff matters?
None today.
Okay. Board or committee members matters?
Nope, I'm good.
Right. Kareem? Yeah, I'm fine as well. So now we have our item for our next agenda. Our next agenda's meeting date is going to be
July 24th.
July 24th. And if there's no further concerns, we consider, any concerns? If there's no further concerns, we consider this meeting to be adjourned.